Crazy Normal for better health and well-being. I'm a psychotherapist, author, and founder of Rapid Core Healing, Emotional Mind Integration, PTIT Trauma Recovery, and a family constellations practitioner in promoting better ways of working with the mind. I've been in private practice since the year 2000, and I have a master's degree and vast amounts of experience of working with ordinary folk like you and me. And I am inspired to dispel myths and lay out facts about your mind and mental health. And I'd like you to join me in an exploration of what it is to be a crazy normal like me, only to do it in your own way so you can be free to be you. I have an interesting person here today called Joseph Callender, who lives in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. He is a psychotherapist of mixed interests and talents who's going to share a little bit of some of his crazy normal world with you today and what he offers to you and the public. So, over to you, Joseph.
I am a number of things. One is a multidisciplined therapist, so I've got a number of clinical qualifications as well as shamanic qualifications. I'm a spirit worker. I'm also a Qigong practitioner and instructor. And I also play a bit of music.
Right, I didn't know you did the music as well. That's great. So
I sing.
So what's underneath all of this drive to do therapy? What is it you're aiming for? Do you have a vision of why you do what you do and what for?
That's a lovely question. Do I have a vision of why I do what I do? I do, and it changes and evolves as I evolve, because I find I have to still remake myself every so often and catch up with the person I've become. So originally, to be honest, my therapy was because I had an estranged daughter. and I knew that at some stage you're going to have to face the music as to how I've ruined her life. So that, to be honest, that was a big driver for me to become a therapist. And then there were some drivers before that. I was quite religious until my understanding of religion broadened and the limitations of faith were revealed just because I was in a philosophy school for 20 years, meditating and just growing. So I've always been interested in spirit, and I've always been interested in the workings of creation. And so what's driving me now is a deeper understanding of myself, which I can then share with others. So I am a constant, as most people who are therapists, I'm a constant learner. I'm constantly reading books. I'm reading books to do with the profession, but I'm also reading books to do with understanding reality. I'm currently reading a book on biogeometry, which is looking at shape resonance and how we can heal environments and ourselves with shape resonance. And for the last, I'd say, 10 to 16 years probably, I've been teaching people and instructing people. Having spent, because I'm now, next birthday in a couple of weeks, going to be 56, I've now spent, I would say, 40-something years. Yeah, 40-something years learning.
Wow.
And it's now, in real earnest, since I was early 20s, so, at least 30-something years learning from a vocational perspective and backdrop. And there's a point where you do all of that and you start to get an understanding of what life is about, that you're compelled to be able to show others what you've learned or speak to others. And it's not like you sit down one day and say, I'm going to be a teacher. It's like you find yourself having longer and longer conversations with really interesting people, and then somebody says to you, do you have a book, or do you have a course, or do you have somewhere? I had a conversation last week, and the person says, "How do you know all of this?" And well, because I amass this. It's like I'm really interested in it, and so what's driving me is a need to understand how creation works, a desire to give myself and others proximity to spirit or divinity, and just interesting how all of this is put together.
Amazing.
And so to put why do I do the courses is because it's a much more, I think the word is fun. It's, I used to be in corporate selling really expensive software. That was great. Had a lot of fun with creativity that ticked all those boxes, and I could show mastery. There's nothing like teaching somebody else to discover what you don't actually understand or what you don't know. And so now what's changed is the time in which I understand something and share has just got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, because I recognize that if I really want to understand this, I've got to start to teach it to somebody. So I teach so I can understand. And the clinic aspect of my work is I just want to give people the information I never had when I needed it. My thing is I want to be a me for me, but let's be a me for somebody else so I can work out what me for me looks like.
And also I'm getting from that, Joseph, that you for you is fine, but you're happy to give people information that can open themselves up. Is that correct? So they can find out what's right for them, because we're all different, aren't we?
Yeah, that's part of the fun of the discovery, because quite often, I remember when I was 16 to 19, I was doing CVs for friends, and the skill I realised I had was the ability to encapsulate in words the noises that they made. And, when we started to do, because I studied Family Constellations with you, when we started to do the constellation preps and the practices, I realised that was called empathy. I didn't realise how empathic I was until I did Family Constellations, where I literally fell down to my knees because I could feel the pain as a representative of the person I was representing. And I realised that's what I've always done. It's the ability to tune into somebody else from my own system, to be able to reflect back to them what they've just said, and that made more sense than the words that they used.
Yes.
And so that's kind of I don't really call it a gift, but I suppose it's my skill, or how my body and system and energy kind of manifests what I do. It's the ability to be able to hold you deeply and then reflect back to you a version of yourself, so the words that I use and the energy that I hold. And then what's changed is that connection to divine grace and divinity and all the shamanic skills means that I can reflect that back to you at all the levels that you are.
That's right.
Whether that is your, there is I went to the jungle in 2013 to take ayahuasca, and the shaman told me that I was a medical intuitive. And I've never done that. I have never done that, but my version of that was being able to see in my body where you hold your trauma, because we resonate together when we're in harmony. And I never thought medical intuitive, but yeah, let's call it intuitive, human intuitive, being able to read my body as it reflects and holds your being.
Yes.
And then as that's progressed, it's read your spirit, because I'm looking at the information that my spirit presents when we're in harmony.
And really, I guess, going back to Family Constellations, we're all connected, right? Which makes it possible for us to join that joint network and intuit what you're feeling and what I'm feeling, and see if there is a resonance or not, right?
It kind
That's
of really,
proven by science.
yeah,
Yeah, that is proven by science.
Yeah,
I did a course where I was looking at ancestry. It was an ancestral healing workshop that I've created, and when I was putting that together, I was looking at all of the statements that reflected how connected we are. And the best one I heard is that if you go back 1,000 years in the UK, where I'm from, 80% of the population are related to each other.
yes. Yes.
But if you look at what makes me different, a black man to you being a white woman, is 0.001% of our DNA makes the differences. So what does that tell us? 99 point whatever percent of our DNA is the same. So we are the same family.
That's right. Well, we're the human race, aren't we? Right? And,
absolutely.
that's the thing, we are, once you come out of your culture and where you were born and your religion, we're all actually the same. We all want love, connection, fulfillment, and we are all spirits, right, on a journey. And we're all doing our own journey, right? And we're looking for fulfillment, we're looking for growth, and we're looking, I believe, on the ultimate in being able to join into the universal energy, completely. From our little creature bodies on Earth,
And those that are lucky enough to do things like meditation or go and have a spiritual system get to experience that.
Yes.
I keep coming back to this creation is one person living multiple existences.
Yes.
And, that Mayan statement, I think it's Mayan, is it Mayan? In Lakesh, I am another you. That is my creed at the moment, because everybody that comes into clinic is reflecting some aspect of me.
Absolutely.
And
Have you ever seen the video called The Egg?
No.
I'll send you a link. It's called The Egg. Exactly what you said. How everyone in the world is you in a different life, in a different situation. Yes. It's really a very, very good little metaphor or story. And you can believe it or not believe it. I just think it's fascinating.
And it seems to be born out of experience. The more you go into the work that we do, the more you recognize the story of the client that's in front of you. And it's like, it's like, this feels like my family. I haven't had a single family constellation session that I can relate to as something to do with my family. It's like, my aha moment was, that's why we can all tune into each other's lives.
Yeah, that's right. And that's what makes us human, right?
Yeah.
Whether that's good or bad, if you look at the world right now, but, I think even with the world as it is, we've got to create our own existence, don't we, where we can.
Well, I think that's our initiation, isn't it? How to carve out individuality in this unity. I think that's the trick, and also mastery in this unity, because it's really tempting to have the comfort of same and sameness.
Sameness is, for me, is nice in the sense that we're having a conversation right now and we can use certain language and we understand each other, right? However, your life is very different to mine and we're a different age group and all sorts of stuff, right? So it's like sameness, but with respect and openness as well, right? And that, I think, is compassion, isn't it, as well, right? Because none of this could happen without empathy, compassion, etc. Yeah?
I've learned so much more about being human from the work that I do, which has the potential to disassociate. So a lot of the spirit work that I do, where we're bringing in different elements of creation and different spiritual guides, if done badly, will essentially throw you out of your body, will throw you out of your own energy system and disassociate. But what I've noticed having to put these rituals together to teach people how to connect to their spirit teams. If I was to summarize what that skill is, it's to become a better human.
Yeah.
And when you're in these rituals and when you're in these sacred spaces, you realize, especially things like psychedelics, if you were fortunate or unfortunate enough to ever experience those in a ceremonial setting, then you notice that it brings out the best of human behavior, because you have to hold space for somebody, you have to look after somebody. You have to, if you're in the jungle and somebody's spewing their guts out, the help that you have to give them requires you to fall upon your humanity. And we had this epiphany about 5 years ago, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, that what we were training wasn't how to connect to your spirit team. What we're training is how to show up as a more authentic human. And the skills, go on.
You said a few things that are really interesting here. When you said about, well, if you're skilled, you can do it this way or that way. And I guess that's something that I am always concerned over, because I believe everything you said just there, but the person doing or offering the skill or offering the healing or the facilitation, whatever you want to call it, often they're not as developed as they need to be to hold that space, right? Unfortunately, There's a lot of people with what I call spiritual ego, who are very happy to go and hold all sorts of workshops and experiences, who actually don't really get it, for one, and also don't hold safe spaces, right? And so all of this alternative work, including family constellations and the work I do, unless the practitioner, if you want of a better word, is fully developed and experienced and expanded within themselves, they can't hold a safe space. So I kind of feel a bit sorry for the public when they look out into the world and decide, well, who's legit and who's not, who's safe and who's not.
I totally agree with you, and I thank you for pulling that out, because I speak from an assumption that everybody has integrity. And so the examples I give and the things that I say have that underlying assumption. Most people show up in integrity, but the reality is obviously not that. And when I was trying to justify that to myself about, well, what do we do about the charlatans, or what do we do about the people that, as you say, have spiritual ego, I resolved that urge by thinking they will have an audience. So on the one hand, there's always somebody, because when I first started to think about healthy eating, cereal was my starting point. Yeah, and you're probably old enough to remember V8. Do you remember V8, the drink in the UK?
Yes.
It was like this tin vegetable juice that was supposed to be healthy, and if you think about it now, it's and I was into smoothies and juices, and then you realise they're just sugar bombs. And you have to start somewhere in your own personal development.
Yes.
And if you've set yourself up as a practitioner or a teacher, there will always be a client for that. Now, maybe that client is going through a karmic rebalance.
Yes.
And maybe, because I've done a lot of my therapy is around pre-birth planning. So the soul plan work that I do is based on Michael Newton's work, as is my hypnotherapy, so Life Between Lives. And there's a guy called Robert Schwartz who's written a book, The Soul's Plan, or Your Soul's Plan, which is kind of similar but not the same thing. They talk about the contracts that we put in place so that we can become and evolve into the person that we need to be. And, you know, in my own shamanic work, where I'm literally clearing demons of people, you realize that some of those are set in place to give you a particular experience for your particular growth. Now, it's unfortunate if you're psychologically damaged by attending an event which is held by an inappropriate facilitator, but at one level, not making this a bypass, it's a karmic contract.
Yes, yes. And I think it also is on each of us, myself included, to put our own discretionary hat on, you know, when we're looking out there, and using your body to sense whether it feels right or not, you know.
Absolutely.
You can't
Discernment
just...
is a superpower.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And that is you're gonna learn more from choosing a poor practitioner than you are gonna learn from a great practitioner. But having the great practitioners will give you that litmus paper, if you will, to let you see, wow, what is the difference between the two? We used to have a lot of our students say, at the point where I want to try something else, we'd say, yes, you need to.
Yeah.
And then a year or two later, they said, thank you for allowing me to do that, for encouraging me to do that.
That's right.
And I now appreciate you more because I realize how brilliant you guys are. And so when I see somebody going to somebody and they tell me I'm seeing such and such practitioner, you kind of bite your lip and go, I think it's useful for their spiritual growth. It's not necessarily going to be the best thing that's going to happen to them, but they will at least land in a much better position that they can start to do something about their lives.
That's right. That's right.
And so I see the divine plan occasionally, and I see the cosmic joke.
Yes.
If you haven't developed that superpower of discernment, then you know, I learned this when I was selling for a living, and then I evolved into a sales trainer for our partners. And I suddenly realized when I was trying to put together a sales training course that nobody knows how to buy. Yeah, if you want to be a great salesperson, you have to first understand how people buy.
Yes.
The decision process they have to go through. You know, if it's a corporate one, it's a big decision process, but it's a personal one, they go through a mini version of that. But if I, let's say, never owned a house, never had to fix a roof, and suddenly a tree falls from my roof, how do I buy a new roof? And the people that, when the economy is working well, that are going to do well is the ones that take that pain of buying away and give you the list of criteria that you should use for your discernment. And I've been the one that says, I'm not sure I'm appropriate for what you're looking for, but these are the things I think you should look at when you're evaluating who else is appropriate. And then that alone gives them free help that they'll remember you for.
Yeah.
I'm coming back to you because I liked how you handled this and you didn't try to sell me something you weren't qualified for.
Yeah. Interesting. And the way people buy, from my perspective, is highly subconscious, right? You know, it's you know, you go for the look, or you go for the feel, or you go for something else, and we don't even know why we do it, you know. And when you've got two different people looking to buy, you get all these different ways of looking at it, and that's when you realise, oh my God, there's many ways of looking at how to buy something or how to do something. Yeah.
Well, indeed, and my website caters for the two that I've identified. Yeah. So I was in a philosophy course ages ago, and somebody was talking about Cicero, and we were studying how Cicero's ideas on how to convince somebody to take a course of action. And there are two ways in which you do it. A, you find out where they are, and then you take them step by step to where you want them to go. And B, you put so much energy in where you want them to go that they make their own way there. So who's good at doing that? Apple. Yeah, Apple are so good at making fantastic products that people flock to them.
Yeah.
Same with peer pressure. Yeah, what creates the fads and what creates the colloquialisms is that your friends are going to put so much energy into the new thing that they've done that you flock your way there. But there are some people who aren't as instinctual and intuitive because they're cut off from that need to read the information. And in the soul plan work, those people there is an energy that people incarnate with that require them, they're the 15-6 and the 6-6 people, that require them to read everything before they can reach a point of decision. And in human design terms, which I've dabbled in for a bit, if you're a generator like me, I'm a generator in human design terms, you can't make that decision until your body gives you a full-bodied yes. And so, the worst email you can give to somebody, or the worst question you can give to somebody who's a generator is, how are you?
Okay.
I have no idea what part of my psyche I have to be in to bloody answer that question.
Yeah, that's right. You could write a book on
And
it.
then I'm mad. Sorry.
Okay, that sounds really good. So what do you spend most of your time doing? It sounds like you're doing teaching, you're holding sessions, you're reading, you're experimenting. What do you actually offer to the public, generally speaking?
So, if you ever go on my website, which is ascensionshamanism.com,
could you say that again
you'll
slowly?
be-
Say that again, because I will write this down in the notes as well, but say it again, yeah.
I'll say it again. If you ever go on my website, which is ascensionshamanism, all one word, .com,
Yeah.
you'll see 3 sections. And one of the sections has a lot of, it says workshops, but it's really one program, and it's got a lot of sub-components. And the one program is Spirit Weaver. Spirit Weaver is my practitioner training to teach you how to essentially remove curses and up to 600 or 900 different things from a person. Ghosts, curses, hexes, all those sorts of things. But the journey to get there is about 2.5 years to 3 years.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly refining what that looks like. And I'm constantly updating the onboarding process to become a Spirit Weaver. So I spend, at the moment, there are 2 courses that haven't been written, which I'm spending time researching, because we were just talking earlier off camera, so to speak, the perfectionism. It's how that work sits with me as a perfectionist, as a trainer, is I'm really good at playing the archetypal role of somebody that doesn't get anything. And so if I then introduce a couple of concepts, my test is, I don't get it. What are you trying to say? I don't get it. So I try and put myself in that situation. I don't get it. And then if I can't give you a cogent or coherent sentence that describes that thing, I haven't understood it myself. So I then second guess myself and go, so what do I mean by that? And then, I realise I don't understand that. And then I go off, either ask questions to somebody who taught me about these things, or I go and read around the subject. So I do a lot of reading at the moment because I've got 2 courses, the Space Cleanser course and the next one from the Spirit Weaver program, and 3, and Sacred Rituals course that I want to create. So lots of reading, lots of attending other courses to see how they do it, which is different from copying how they do it. It's kind of what's missing. Critical thinking about, well, what is this about? And so I sit in this kind of analytical state going, I don't know why I'm doing this. I work out the why. Once you've worked out the why, you can work out the what. Okay. And like with Space Cleanser, for example, the why is when we do a shamanic cleanse on somebody, for many people, it's only half the picture because they live in a particular environment that if we don't do something about, it's going to just reinfect affect them with the things that are in the environment. And so the why is, to create a better spirit weaver, but also, like I was saying, most people don't know how to buy, how that translates into this work. Well, if I'm running this course, what does that look like? Why will people come to me? Because there is sickness. So understand the types of sickness that you can get from a space. Geopathic stress, allopathic stress, solar radiation, fault lines, Hartman grids, it's the whole lot. So right now, because there's such an all-encompassing course, I'm doing a lot of reading of all sorts of different things, from biogeometry to electromagnetic smog, understanding how EMF affects us, understanding how blue light affects us. It's all of that sort of thing. I also, the other side of my website you'll see is a clinic. I run a clinic. So I have a community of people that come to me regularly, and I'm trying to branch out of that community to try and make myself wider appeal. Some of those courses are online, some of them are in person, some of the clinic sessions are remote, and many of them are in person. And I love to keep a hand on the in-person stuff because they give you content for the courses. Because if you're open enough and are able to look at it, you can see what are most people coming to you for.
And for myself, I am doing a lot of training, stroke teaching and writing as well. But all of that, I believe, would be empty if I wasn't still a practitioner, still actually dealing with real people and real problems that are, full of life, that they're still, real. It's because there's no point.
Absolutely.
There's no point in me thinking, oh, what did I do 10 years ago? It's like, well, what happened yesterday? And that's much more current. And I believe it makes me a better practitioner stroke educator as well.
Teacher.
Teacher.
Yeah, I loved your courses because they were filled with anecdotal evidence. And therefore there's an authenticity with that.
That's right.
As opposed to if I conjectured the possibility of, this particular situation, doesn't have that resonance, doesn't have that impact.
That's right.
And so these are the stories. I did a cleanse on my house, and this is the first time I've ever done one myself as opposed to farm it out to somebody else. And when we moved here, I got one of my teachers to cleanse the house. And then I realised that not everybody sees the same things. And for the last 5 years, I've been sleeping on a sacred site. And most sacred sites, this one was 500 years old, and there was another one which was 800 years old. And they had offerings. Yeah, so 12 animal spirits had to be cleared, and 5, 800-year-old, 5 human sacrifices. And so what are most sacred sites based on? Earth vortices. So I've been sleeping on earth vortices, and so I've moved my bed. First time I've ever done that since I've lived in this house. And then you realise there's toxic thought forms everywhere. And so those are the stories of my course. And if you think about your own issues, it's harder to look critically at them and holistically at them. And it's much better and easier to look at the patterns that your clients present.
That's
so
right.
that you can understand the human psyche a bit better.
That's right.
And
The patterns and the behaviour or the symptoms, if you look at them in enough detail, will tell you exactly what's going on at a deeper level. Yeah.
Absolutely. The biggest free service I give to my clients is to help them work out an intention.
Yeah.
And if somebody comes thinking it's a great idea and I can't feel the resonant charge in my body, we will spend time working on the intention, and just with the questions to get that provides a mirror to their own existence for them. And then they go, oh my God, now you've put it that way, I can see it's mum, it's dad, it's this situation. And that's, that's the first 15 minutes of shall I work?
And that is
work
such
with the
that is
conversation.
such a valuable part of any session, isn't it? I mean, you
Yeah.
can't really do much without. Well, I can't do anything without it, to be honest. Yeah.
And that's what I say. There were two things that I learned from having the clinic. The one was that most people come with basic intentions, and that the intention is what shapes the session. So if the intention is basic, then the session is basic. And the more skin in the game they have, and the more charge they have, the more they put into the session, and therefore the more they get out of the session.
Absolutely.
And the second observation was that why do they all seem the same? It's like the human condition is the human condition. And it's like I am learning to be a better person by helping somebody be a better person.
Yes. Yes.
Because these are things that you don't normally get to reflect in your own life. And if that's your working surface, your own existence, then you don't get to see enough of it from the appropriate distance to be able to say, do you know what? I haven't studied this, but I could probably be a great marriage counsellor now, just because of all of the issues I'm hearing from my female clients.
Sorry.
And they go, can I send my husband to you? Willingly, yes. No.
As long as he's ready to change, right? Or as long as he's ready to look at himself. That's also the big thing,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, as long as he's willing to change. That is the you can't force somebody to change.
No.
And that's my condition, and that's the reason why my intake form is a pain in the arse. Because if you go through that, then you want the session.
Okay.
If you're not prepared to go through that, then why are we even talking? Coming back to answering your question, the other thing I spend my time doing at the moment is I have a streaming platform called Power TV, which is, if you ever go on my website, the Ascension Shamanism one, the top left corner, you'll see a button that jumps. And that button says Power TV. And that's the container for most of my online courses. But it also has Qigong, which is my other passion.
Okay.
So, spelled QI but pronounced Qi,
Yeah.
Qigong is, the way in which I've put the Qigong courses together is, it's a modality in itself. And I met my last partner through a Taoist center. And in that Taoist center, they were doing Qigong. And that's after spending 20-something years in a philosophy school learning about, from a devotional aspect, learning about creation, the Taoist Center filled in a lot of the gaps. And I recognized that our ability to command the energy of money, there's the family constellation understanding, but there's also the energetic understanding of power. And our power can be increased by energy work that funds us with vitality and energy. So I teach my students how to do that shamanically as well as energetically with Qigong. And I've got one of my friends who runs a superfood business, attributes his ability to run $1 million company because of the Qigong. He says, doing your Qigong gave me sufficient command, to work with the energy of money, you have to be in your sovereign state. And to be sovereign, there's an energetic backdrop to the ideas we have about ourselves. In family constellations, we look at EMI practice, there's an energy component that holds the trauma. And what I noticed is if you're funded with energy, you can process trauma better.
That's right.
If you're funded with energy, you can go to therapy without being completely exhausted by the therapeutic sessions.
That's right.
And when you're doing spirit work, when we came over here, what we realized, because we had this Taoist center background, there's a lot of people doing psychedelics or entheogens, and they've activated their top 3 chakras. And that is a bit like, we used to have this diagram where we drew a triangle. Here's a triangle. if you do that, then it's like an upside down triangle where the weight is in the top three and it's all on the vertices. Now, what is that going to do? Is that going to be a stable structure? So what the Qigong does is give you that first and second and third chakra stability. Third chakra, your power center. Second chakra, your health. The root chakra is your grounding, so that it supports your spiritual growth. So the thing that fuels all of the clinic work and all of the courses and the shamanic work is the Qigong. So in my streaming platform, you've got a couple of hundred Qigong videos that you can practice just to build your spiritual vitality.
That sounds really interesting. Your projects then are your music, is that right?
So yeah, my hobbies. I've got a couple of hobbies. One is people watching. I just love and going out eating in restaurants by myself. I can just stare at people. I just consummate people watching. I love doing that. So I built my other hobbies. I built a gym in my garage. So I have a personal trainer that comes around and we work in my garage and do that. And I also I've got 4 guitars. No, 3 now. I gave one away. 3 guitars, and I sing. I actually learn. I don't write music yet, but I had an experience in 2014 where I kept waking up as if my soul was singing me awake, and there were songs that I needed to learn. And when I worked out why, the particular songs that Spirit or my soul had chosen, it was in order to be able to sing authentically those songs, you needed to become the person that sang them. And so it wasn't necessarily about the singing, it was about the evolution of my being so that I could sing from authenticity. So since about 2014, this has been a childhood ambition. I learned how to play the guitar to then strum. And why I play music and play the guitar, it's to soothe my soul. And I spend as much time as I can, when I'm not too busy doing all the other things, just singing.
Sounds lovely. Sounds really good. And it's good because you've given us a really good insight today, Joseph, of your passion, where you've come from, the way you've evolved, and also how you keep yourself grounded, happy, full, and continuing to grow. And yes, I do agree, we all need to do physical things, exercise or dancing. I like dancing, actually. But whatever you do, it comes from you, doesn't it? It comes from your soul. And you're kind of guided, really, to know what to do, aren't you, a lot of the time, if you actually listen?
It's funny you say that. I used to think transcendence and spirit work was about getting out of the body.
No, I think it's about getting into the body.
Exactly. And now I've realised that it's about, our body and earth is the reason why we can do the spirit work.
That's right.
And the journey work.
Yeah.
And so I realised that, and I used to think ascension was also some form of disassociation. I now believe that ascension is where we fully embody our soul and higher self. And we operate from that perspective.
That's what I call oneness, right?
Yes.
Oneness. That's my personal aspiration, I guess. Yeah.
I call that divine grace. In some cultures they believe that God is the higher self. I don't quite believe that, but I believe that we have aspects, in the same way that I have an arm and a hand and a finger, that are not me, but they're certainly part of is an aspect of the one.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter which journey you take to it, because we're all part of that same one. And the beauty of life is the ability to experience one in all its facets and faces.
Yes, that's right. And to accept that other people's experience of the one is valid too, right? For me, that's important, as long as it's not an experience that you spoke about it a little bit at the beginning of religions that tend to separate people, you know, making me better than you or you better than me, you know, that's what really causes a lot of our problems in the world, I believe. And not just religions, it can be social groups, it can be any group, can't it? So
totally. That used to be one of my definitions of a good practitioner. I had an experience once where I realised that a good facilitator is like an avatar type being that had privileged access to somebody's personal universe. And so that's why I had this vision of me and all of my friends who do similar work. And it was like we had this ability to go into somebody's bubble, their universe bubble, and just make a little change.
That's right.
And then come out.
that's right.
And what I realised the most sacrosanct thing was, the most sacred thing is your idea of who you are and your personal universe. And if you can influence that to the positive, then you're doing great work. But if you violate that, I believe that is the biggest thing that you could make, that you invalidate somebody's personal view. And the great therapists are the ones that can work with somebody's version of reality.
That's right.
Without needing them to be made bad or different or the same as yours, and be able to use their concepts, their words, their beliefs, and help them out of it.
That's right.
If it helping out is what is the cause of their stuckness.
That's right.
And as a therapist, our biggest superpower is being able to see what our limiting beliefs are and how they're limiting us. And the problem with beliefs is that we believe them and realize they're just software that we can rewrite, reprogram ourselves so that our working surface is slightly better or different because we're coming from a different software.
Yes, I agree, but I also believe that when you've got healthy beliefs, and you know, we've talked about some healthy beliefs of acceptance or whatever, oneness, they actually make you happy, right?
Yes.
When you've got limiting beliefs, you know, it can only happen this way or that way or whatever, you find yourself bashing yourself against a brick wall all the time, or you're not happy, right? So I've noticed in my own life, as I have dismantled or let go of probably many beliefs I had which were not great, the happier I get, you know, and funnily enough, the healthier I get too, which is weird when you think about it, because I'm not that young. But beliefs really do restrict how we view the world, how we view ourselves, and the healthier they are, the more relaxed they are. It doesn't mean I accept everything. I have quite clear boundaries about what I do and don't accept. But I've got more clarity about what's okay now, whereas in my younger years I didn't have that clarity, right? Because you're still developing.
I'm totally there with you. I totally agree. I did a lot of research around 2000 because I wanted an alternate narrative to the mainstream. And what I noticed was that there were factions of the alternate narrative that just made them angry.
Yeah. That's right.
And so
exactly.
it was painful listening to and accepting their worldview.
That's right.
Because if it was a healthy worldview, they would be offering a decent solution from a position of lightness and love, and they would embody that and be an example of that.
And be happy and not angry, right?
And be happy and not
that's right.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of very successful, i.e. rich people who haven't really had a successful life.
No.
and they've sacrificed whatever they've sacrificed for the single thing that they've done to make them rich.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I can change or cannot change, but God grant me the wisdom to be able to see the things I do to myself to make me miserable.
Yes.
And the beliefs I hold that limit me and
That
piss
keep me
everybody
there.
else off.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Anyway, look, it's been really lovely having this conversation with you, Joseph. I've learned a lot of things about you. I've known you for a long time. There are a lot of things I didn't know about you, which I know now, which I'm very happy about. And thank you so much for being here. I will put your details... Podcast. I couldn't say the word.
Yes.
And so people can contact you if they want to know more about your courses, what you offer, or just have a look at your website. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you. Pleasure was also mine, and thank you very much for this.
What Joseph shared is fascinating and may have given you much to think about. You may look at what he offers at ascensionshamanism.com. If you'd like to share anything with me about this podcast or any crazy normal ideas or stories, I will probably share one or two each week or each time I do a podcast. Or if you have some expertise that you feel might contribute to this podcast as a guest speaker, you may contact me through yildisethi.com, or if you'd like to see what I offer in terms of services, you may go to rapidcorehealing.com.